Sure. So on Saturday, August 10th, one of our off-duty canine handlers was at home with his dog, and one of his children were bit. And so that obviously is a very tragic incident that's occurred. In terms of how we proceed forward in relation to the incident is that, I'll do an internal review in-house around, kind of the behaviors of the dog and what did occur. Right now, super early, obviously, in the incident, and looking at that, and even having a chance to speak with the member and his family.
And has this ever happened before in the history of the service?
Well, I think the circumstances are certainly different. There has been some events in the past that have occurred, and whether off duty or on duty, very few, very infrequent.
Sorry, incidents in which a dog attacked someone without provocation or without reason?
So I think we'd be careful in using dog attacking in many of these instances. A lot of times, even when they're in regular deployment stage, the dogs don't just automatically attack. They're trained to do a specific role and have that responsibility, as does a handler, in assessing risk at all deployments. And they're certainly an asset to the Calgary Police Service. So in this instance, it's a tragic, traumatic event, obviously, for my handler and for his family. And right now, we're just providing support. So that's critical to us right now.
Have the dog interacted with the child prior to this?
So we've had this specific dog for just about 2 months now, so he's fairly new to us. Throughout that 2-month session, we have exposed him to various kind of incidents, and thus far we haven't had any behavioral issues. So again, various kind of scenarios that we put our dogs through at all times. So in this instance, it's just it hasn't ever occurred, basically.
And would this have been during a training type situation? Would he have been training the dog, or she, or would the dog just have sort of been there casually?
Okay, so again, this dog was at home with the handler, and in this instance, there was no training. It is really early on in the incident to kind of give you a lot of detail on it. We're still kind of having an opportunity to let our family deal with the tragedy that's occurred, and that's paramount, first of all. And then we're going to get into more details around exactly what occurred leading up to the incident as well.
Can you talk about just like the bond between a service dog and their handler?
Sure. So again, there was a question in relation to training. So that first initial 2 months, what we do is we actually keep the dog at the kennel. And the reason for that is it allows the handler to establish that bonding early on. And they do a lot of work together. It is really critical, and it's around the world, it is a standard with all canine agencies that dog does go home with them. It's really around socialization. So if you can attribute it to us, when we're at work, we work. When we're at home, we're allowed to actually exhale, and that's what we do with our dogs as well. So that's why they go home. That's why every canine handler will bring their dogs home, because it allows them to not be in work mode, and it is really a socialization piece.
But when the dog is at home, then other members of the family, are they allowed to interact with the dog at all?
Well, we have certain standards and expectations of our handlers at all times in terms of who handles that dog, and it is the handler. We always are looking for efficiencies, and again, we are amongst the highest in terms of our unit standards of practice, in terms of what our expectations are with our handlers. And so, are there things that maybe we can improve on? I guess it's always worth an honest look, and we'll do exactly that and look at the incident in terms of what did occur.
Can you tell us how old the officer's son is at all?
The officer's son is, I'm not really sure of the relevance of that. It is a tragedy. It doesn't really matter to me the age of any child when this kind of event occurs. It is very difficult.
Will there be any changes to future protocols?
Again, early on in the incident, and in terms of having a look at it, as far as taking an animal home policy, I really, unless there's something glaring or blatant, again, it's the industry standards across the world, and it's really around that socialization piece. In fact, keeping them at a kennel 24/7 when they're not being operational and they're on their off time is actually more detrimental to an animal. It's really around the psychology of that. So it's almost worse to do that, and there's studies that are out there that actually indicate exactly that. So that's kind of, we'll stay with that practice.
Is there a reason the Director of Law Enforcement is not investigating?
So ACERT, obviously ACERT's always notified when we have any circumstances that arise with any of our members within the Calgary Police Service. They also have a standard kind of set of parameters in which they'll investigate, and this doesn't meet that criteria. They are aware, and they always are a supporter of us. We will, again, conduct our internal review. In addition to Calgary Communities will also do their review, and they really do any dog bites that are in the city of Calgary. So it's not any different in this instance.
Why doesn't it meet certain standards?
You'd have to ask ACERT about that. They have a set criteria in terms of what they investigate, and it just doesn't meet the expectation there.
So what's going to happen to the dog now? The
So,
canine unit?
yeah, so in relation to the dog's back at the kennels with us now. There will be a reassessment period. Because we've only had this dog for a couple of months, we have a couple of options open to us. It can be returned back to the broker, be reallocated. If it's a training issue, then we're going to work on that. So there are a couple of things that we certainly have the ability to consider moving forward. But again, because we're so early, the incident was only on Saturday. There are those wounds that we want to kind of work around and support our member and their family, and then we'll work towards what are we going to do with this canine.
When do you suspect you'll sort of come up with a ultimate decision on the canine unit's future?
With this specific dog, again, we have 2 internal trainers within the canine section, and they'll have an opportunity to start assessing this dog moving forward. And once they prepare their documentation and they present it to me, I'll be able to make some recommendations around that and move forward plan with this specific dog.
And how are you supporting the family at this time?
Well, we have obviously anyone who's been in canine or either previous handler or current handler have been reaching out to this family. It is extremely tragic, and we're providing as much support as we possibly can. In addition to, we have peer support psych services. Everybody's been engaged. This member really, it's kind of a nice wraparound system that we have to support one another, because it's one thing to have something happen when you're on duty. It's another to have when you're off, and there's always that piece that you just have to continue to support our members as we move forward. And if there are things that we can fix, ultimately we'll do that.
And how long has the member been with the canine?
So this member is relatively new as well. He's 3 months in. He had over 300 hours of quarrying time, and for many of you that don't understand the quarry time, that time is your own time. So he was a regular patrol officer taking calls for service, and then on top of that, the expectation is if you're quarrying for the unit that you do a minimum of 60 hours per year. So that's on your own spare time, your free time. So he had well over 300. He was part of the last competition process. We had, I think, a total of 8 applicants. And the service right now within the canine unit for quarries, we have, I think, approximately 35 quarries that will come and train with us and work on that socialization with the hope that they can be a canine officer one day.
Is the handler still at work right now? Is he on leave of absence or anything like that?
Well, obviously, we just got released from the hospital, so we're all home now, and we're allowing him to be there with his family, because really that's a priority right now. As far as work goes, we'll work around when he's ready to come back. These are tough occurrences, and certainly when they involve your children, for sure.
Is there any thought process that there was any issue between the handler and the dog, or maybe that the handler didn't sort of do things up to code, or are we just assuming that something happened with the dog?
Right. Again, really early in the incident to kind of make that determination. This handler did work with this dog for 2 months, and all handlers do that away from the office before they kind of move into the ability to bring that animal home and that socialization start to begin off of CPS kind of property. So again, really early in the incident to determine what, if anything, occurred. It could really be a number of things, so it'd be premature for me to comment on that. But we will continue to support this member, and at the end of the day, that's our priority.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.